Thank you so much for joining us this morning. This is the 7th, if you can believe it, session in our year-long series. My name is Danielle Hubley, and I manage advocacy and education with the Partnership for Strong Communities. We've been so excited to host this series where we've been engaging in a wide range of conversations with advocates and leaders in other sectors to talk about the impact that a lack of safe, affordable housing has on their work. Some quick housekeeping before we dive in. Today's session is being recorded and will be published to the Partnership's YouTube channel. I'll have Carlene share a link in the chat when she has a moment. And it should be published on this website in this playlist sometime within the next week. And you can view any of the past sessions that we've hosted also under this playlist. So please check it out, share it with folks. There's a great wealth of information and great wealth of partners that you can learn from and continue to engage with on the different intersections within our work. If you have any questions or would like to participate in today's conversation, please plan to use the chat box in the bottom right-hand side of your screen to join into our conversation today. We'll do our best to get to as many questions as possible. We only have an hour, and the hour always goes faster than we'd like it to. But please participate in the conversation. We do keep the chat log, so if you have a question that we don't end up getting to, we will try and get to it offline. And also, I encourage presenters to share their contact information in the chat so that if you want to continue these wonderful conversations beyond today, you have the ability to do so. Before I get into some more information about the partnership and today's topic, I just want to make sure to remind you that this series is taking place on the first Wednesday of every month. We've got another one coming up in September and then one last one in October. And Carlene, if you want to move us to the next slide. If you're sad that we don't have a session planned for November, you absolutely shouldn't be, because we have so many more conversations lined up. Maybe not all entirely the intersectional conversations we're having in this series, but so many other really great conversations across the state, across the country around housing policy and advocacy work that's going on. As you can see here, we've got some really exciting keynotes lined up. Jerusalem Demsis will kick us off Monday morning. I super encourage you to come listen. She's such a wonderful speaker and so passionate and so well versed in the topic. And Ava Rosen and Brian McCabe will be joining us representing Georgetown University on Tuesday morning. And they'll be talking about their work in supporting and editing and writing in the sociology of housing. And so excited to have them all with us amongst a wealth of other presenters. We just started looking through all of the proposed sessions for the conference, so I'm getting super excited for it. So please plan to join us. It'll be November 18th and 19th. Carlene, if you want to move to the next slide. So with that, let me first introduce you to the partnership and why we're hosting this series. So the partnership promotes equitable change in Connecticut housing policy by coordinating advocacy, advancing research, and uniting diverse partners. And our vision is that everyone in Connecticut has a safe, stable home that is affordable to them in an equitable community of their choice. And our mission is carried out through partnerships. We are committed to policies and practices that reduce disparities in housing and within our own organization. We ground our work in facts and data to dispel myths, challenge stereotypes, and fill gaps in knowledge to drive change. And we prioritize housing solutions that will be affordable and sustainable in the long term, focusing on the full spectrum of housing needs and experiences now and for generations to come. So how do we actualize this vision? Well, we know that a healthy housing system necessitates a comprehensive approach which intertwines housing affordability, creation, choice, and stability. People need to be able to afford their homes while meeting their other basic needs. We need more physical homes across the state, period. We need all different kinds of homes for people to choose from in all communities across the state. And most importantly, people should have the right to safe, stable homes and to be supported from experiences like housing instability, eviction, and homelessness. So this is really how we weave a housing system that prioritizes the needs of our residents and that supports strong families and strong communities. And today, As we think about folks who are leaving the carceral system and the impact that it has on people's ability to choose where they live, their ability to access affordable homes, and how we can support these individuals and families in finding more stability, really this conversation, I think, hits on all 4 of these priorities that we're working to advance across the state. Just a little bit more, and I know our presenters will get into this in more depth, then I'll cover it quickly here, but I just want to kind of set the stage, right? You know, people who have previously been incarcerated are more often known to experience high rates of homelessness. They're also more likely to be discriminated against or evicted as a direct result of their criminal record. We know the environments that we live in can positively or negatively influence our decision-making. As an example, people who have found themselves incarcerated because of a drug or substance use, having to return to that environment after serving their time can lead them to re-engage in habits or behaviors that may have led to their incarceration in the first place. Ultimately, if the goal of our prison systems is to help people rehabilitate, grow, and return back healed from the challenges that led them to incarceration, we need to ensure that people are coming back home to have resources, tools, and supports in place that continue to build their lives in a positive direction, and the direction most positive to them. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge the history of racism that's intentionally embedded into our understanding of the United States carceral system. As we aim to address the racial inequities within the housing sector, we also need to recognize and actively work to correct the disparities that led to the disproportionate impact on Black, Indigenous, and other marginalized communities, like the school-to-prison pipeline, the intentional over-policing and stigmatization of communities of color across the state. Housing does not exist in a vacuum. We've talked about this before. And if we want to help build healthier, safer, and more stable communities, we need to make sure we're not only providing safe, accessible, and affordable housing, but also the community supports and resources that go alongside that housing to create platforms for success and stability. Carlene, if you can move us to our next slide. As we think about the topic of intersectionality, right? How do we define intersectionality? Well, intersectionality is a framework for conceptualizing a person, a group of people, or problem as affected by a number of influences. It takes into account people's overlapping identities and experiences in order to understand the complexity of the experiences that they face. The series continually reinforces for me and for others the reality that to best support a person's health and well-being, we need to engage in holistic advocacy that addresses people's basic needs and reduces the impact that stress can have on individuals and families. When we aim to achieve housing stability and affordability for all households, everyone benefits. And I think that this quote really reinforces this. Again, a quick plug, Brian and Ava, this is a quote from the book, The Sociology of Housing. They'll be speaking more on this. But I think it really speaks to how, you know, a home is so personal in experience, but also so structural an experience for people. And I think we need to continue to reinforce how central housing is to so many different conversations. And again, that's really part of the impetus of this series. Caroline, if you want to jump to the next slide. Really quickly, as we think about the intersectionality of the conversation around housing, it's also really important that we take some time to acknowledge its inextricable links to the land that we're living and building on. While there is still a lot of work for us to be doing to address our history and the impact that it's left on many Native families in our state, you can start by learning a little bit more. This is a resource I always recommend, is nativeland.ca. It's a great starting place to learn a little bit more about the history of the land that you live on and the Native cultures that existed prior to the landscape that we're operating in today. So without any further ado, I am so excited. Carlene, if you want to jump to the next slide for me. I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I'm so excited to pass it off to our presenters today. Let them jump in and offer their perspectives on the conversation. Like I said, we'll try and have some time for Q&A. Throw any questions you have in the chat. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll try and answer them as we go through or at the end of today's presentation. But I want to hand it over to LaResse Harvey to get us started. And thank you so much for being here with us this morning.
Thank you for having me, Danielle. My name is LaResse Harvey. I am a 2020 Connecticut Hall of Change inductee, and I am the founder and board chair of Once Incarcerated Anonymous. Our main mission is to eradicate and fight for the injustice of justice impacted communities homelessness. So this morning, I got a slide I'm going to share and everything, but I want to introduce the other two speakers because I partner with them and they will speak after me, and that's Jacquie Purcell, Evolution Reentry, and her and I are in collaboration, believe it or not, working with Connex Credit Union on a different project, but I worked with Connex Credit Union to give people with criminal backgrounds an alternative to first-time home ownership, as well as becoming, buying being a multi-home owner and helping your fellow person who's been incarcerated or has a criminal background have sustained stable housing. And so they'll be talking about their program after me. So let me just focus on my presentation. I'm going to be sharing my screen to provide housing advocacy through education, outreach, and organizing for people with criminal records, specifically formerly incarcerated people. We are Once Incarcerated Anonymous is a 501c3, so all donations are tax deductible. So far this year, we raised $30,000, and that would go into helping individuals with their security deposit and first month's rent. And in some cases, for first-time homeowners, they might have lost their job within the first 2 years of owning that home, or anything can happen. You got sick or whatever. We like to help them pay their mortgage, because paying a mortgage is like paying rent to us. Connecticut homeless and justice impact data. In Connecticut, 25%, that's 875,000 people, have a criminal record. And although we passed the clean slate bill, it will only support about 300,000 of that 875,000. So that means 500,000 people, or over 500,000 people, are going to have a criminal record. And they're also at risk of being homeless, because majority of those people are not on a lease and they don't own homes. But according to Connecticut's point in time homeless count for 2024, there was a 13% increase in the homeless population as inflation rises. Not people's salaries are not rising with inflation, and renting is taking up more than a third of people's incomes, where they're making decisions like, do I pay rent or do I buy food? So families with children has increased from 310 to 362 in 2024. Adults have risen from 1,997 to 2,246. Because there isn't enough single individual housing and staff discrimination using personal biases, although the new HUD law regulations prevent criminal background discrimination. It's called HUD Second Chance Housing Initiative, and it was released in April 15th, 2022. Biden-Harris has this new law, and part of it has housing, the Renters Bill of Rights is included. The link is included in the presentation, and I will send it to Danielle. So if anybody wants the full package, I have them in PDF form. Housing providers also may not refuse to rent to a prospective tenant based on a tenant's source of lawful income, or which includes vouchers by federal, state, or local rent assistance programs. For example, all those luxury apartments that's been denying people who have vouchers, or if you're on Social Security disability, that's your main income, they're denying people that because we don't qualify for the 3.5 times the rent. However, they're not supposed to do 3.5 times the rent when someone has a voucher or is getting rental assistance. And that's a form of discrimination. And now you can file a suit against them and a complaint. Number two, it prohibits bias-based harassment in housing. So what that means is like quid pro quo, sexual harassment, a threat towards kicking you out. So a lot of this applies to a lot of sex workers or undocumented residents, where they will the landlord will threaten, oh, I'll call, ICE on you if you don't pay this extra amount of rent. Housing providers and realtors cannot retaliate against a person for exercising or attempt to exercise their rights under the new law. So if you want to put in a complaint, and it's to your advantage to do so, be it through civil housing court or you complain to the commissions. I believe they're called the renters commissions across the state. Each town has one, or majority of the towns have them. They're not supposed to charge you more than $50 for application. They're not supposed to charge you more than a 1 day late fee. Even if you're 30 days or more late on a rent, they can't charge you more than $50. And you have a right, and you have to go through the court system to do this. You have the right to withhold your rent until they fix something, but it has to be in an escrow account. And I don't know a whole lot about that. Now, we're talking about people with criminal backgrounds, yet on June 28th, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of criminalizing homelessness. Now, think about those families that lost their housing not because they didn't pay their rent, but because their rent is too high. Now we're going to criminalize the parents and the kids according to the new Supreme Court ruling, which is contradictory to Biden-Harris's affordable housing initiative, and all the money that's being poured into homelessness right now, to homelessness prevention, I should say. But can Connecticut afford to incarcerate the homeless at $249 a day? That's $90,000 a year for one individual, and their only crime is homelessness. I think not. We can barely house the people, afford the people we incarcerate now for nonviolent crimes and low-level crimes. So what do I want you to take away from this conversation? I want you to take away, like, it's against the law to deny housing to anyone with a criminal background. We are now protected under Fair Housing Act. All landlords, property owners, property managers must update their applications removing "have you ever been arrested or convicted of a felony" language from their applications. Their only exception is sexual related crimes. And if you're applying to public housing, and you got arrested with manufacturing or selling inside public housing, then you cannot reapply for public housing. That still remains. They cannot ask you about your criminal background unless it has something to do with a sexual assault. Credit checks, and at 3 times your rent, like I said, if you have a voucher or if someone organization is paying your rent, they cannot use the 3 times the rent or do a background check, credit check on you, because it is not necessary. Your rent is being paid by a third party, and you're on, if you have Social Security, disability, SSI, that is your income, or you're on state assistance, that is your income, and you're able to pay your rent with the third party's assistance, they shouldn't be denying you your right to live in that nice luxury apartment space or any safe, clean area of housing where you want to choose to live. There are barriers that we deal with, but like I said, it is against the law to deny someone with a criminal background housing. And what we did at Once Incarcerated Anonymous is developed a two-way system into making sure that individuals with criminal backgrounds have secured housing. One way is we work with Connex Credit Union to do first-time home ownership, mortgage advocacy. We went around the state of Connecticut and talked to a few people. I refer people. You don't know if you're ready, so for a house, but if you're paying $1,500 for rent, then you can afford a mortgage. Own your property. I'm always advertising, do a 2 or 3 family house, because then you can help someone else have a safe, clean space to live that has a criminal background. And then I work with Jacquie at Evolution Reentry, where we are talking about owning homes and renting them out, like the banks helping us with 2 or 3 family units that we house formerly incarcerated people in. And she'll talk about that next. Let me stop sharing my screen. So Jacquie would talk about that next. See, what I do is we help people fill out information too for choice vouchers, your application. If you're homeless, we write the letters stating that you're homeless, and we help you through the whole process of getting a choice voucher, locating housing, and then making sure you're set up and you can pay your rent. And we follow you for 6 months, making sure you get a budget and all that stuff. And if you want to do housing, we transfer you to Connex Credit Union. And then Jacquie and I are working on something new. So go ahead, Jacquie.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jacquie Purcell. I am a Connecticut state real estate agent and also a Connecticut property title researcher. I have for the past 30 years, I own a title search company. And first, I'd like to say from our title search company that I put our land acknowledgement in the chat, because we always like to acknowledge the land in which we gather in ancestral territory of the tribes that are in Connecticut, and we have quite a few in Connecticut. That's important to me, that we support the sovereignty as tribal nations now and the future. So I like to always say that. I believe I'm also formerly incarcerated. So when I came home in 2015, there's this fallacy that as someone who's formerly incarcerated, we can never own a home. And we, with LaResse, who I have to say is phenomenal in this area, we've developed a program that is called Wealth Entry. And within that program, we're working with lenders on real estate owned properties, which are foreclosed properties, that we've had 2 houses donated to us so far to be able to place women or individuals coming home who have families into the home and do a step up approach to how they're paying rent and eventually giving a mortgage to them. And there's a process to it. Obviously, there's a criterion process. We have programs that they need to go through to get to that point. But what I believe is everybody can have a house. Everybody can rent an apartment. Very difficult when you have a felony on your background. However, to give your family a home is very different than a house or a rental apartment. A home is a pathway to success, period. It ends generational incarceration, and it promotes dignity, for people who are otherwise discriminated against and are not considered part of the discrimination, a class of discrimination of people. So a lot of people say to me all the time, my credit is horrible. I can never. I have yet to meet a bank that has not given, or a credit union who has not given someone a mortgage because of a criminal background. So the fallacy of getting there is really the means to the ends of how do we put people in positions? Well, there's several things. Number one, a career. So in Evolution Reentry, we do not give jobs. We have a workforce development company, but we build careers. Having a career is very different than having a job. So we give careers, we offer free education. I work with several academic institutions, and we help build success by hope and by earning it. I have 2 women placed in houses today, and the difference between somebody coming home and even remotely thinking, okay, I'm going to own this home, it gives them a purpose. It gives them hope. They're allowed to paint the walls of their home because they don't have rental barriers. Their children are no longer being moved around from place to place to place. Their children grow up and are raised in the same school system, in the same neighborhood. And I think, and I love Connex. I have a title search company. We do a lot of title searches for Connex. They are phenomenal in this area, giving people a chance. I don't believe in second chances. I believe in second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. As humans, when we raise our children from babies, when they're learning to walk and they fall, we pick them up and they start walking again and they fall. For the first year and a half of their lives, they're falling and we're picking them up. As humans, I think we forget the fact that we're human. We're imperfect humans. And very infrequently do organizations like Connex, like Once Incarcerated Evolution, work together to solve a problem and not complain about the problem. So we're here to solve a problem, and we're here to give an opportunity to people who come home. I found myself with a very unique skill set, which I didn't even recognize. I have a master's in social work, a master's in business, and a master's in criminal justice. And I also am a notary public and a paralegal. And I have my license in real estate and investigative research property in Connecticut. With that, I'm able to target these foreclosed homes that are sitting empty for years, aren't sold at auction. And in the towns they're in, they become blighted, meaning they are destructive and bringing down the value of the homes around them because the grass isn't being upkeeped. The outside of the house is falling apart. So in working with lenders, it's a win-win. When putting someone in that house, the lender no longer has to bear the expense of keeping that house up until the house is sold, which could be 5 years. I mean, there's 42 homes in New Haven right now that are empty and real estate owned, meaning owned by lenders, that are being maintained by the lender. The lenders are losing money, and lenders are not in the business of owning houses, as Christina knows. They do not want to own houses. So our goal, the first 2 houses we were donated 1 year free rent. So we put the women in, we put them through a financing class. We explain what a mortgage is. We explain what a note is. And how does the note relate to the mortgage that is on the house? Many people who are coming home from incarceration don't have those skills and don't even know that those things exist, which many on the call right now probably don't even know what a title searcher is. Often people, when they purchase a house, they just say, okay, well, the attorney's covering everything. As a title searcher, my job is to go in, research property 40 years back, of what blights, what encumbrances, meaning if there's liens on the property, and how viable is that property to move forward, and how can we tailor the program to have people coming home who are previously incarcerated to be successful as a homeowner. And I think the fallacy of so many in the industry that someone with a felony on their record not being a homeowner is because they're not given the tools to succeed as a homeowner. They're not given the financial tools. They're not giving the budget tools. They're not giving the credit tools. They're just chasing the rentals. And LaResse has been so successful with these housing vouchers, which is phenomenal, helping people get rents. So I decided to partner with her because what she does is so successful. Number one, I have to give her so much credit because I've learned a lot from her. But I partner with her because we'd love to take it to the next step. Not going to, we are taking it to the next step. Our goal is we are tearing down reentry. We're rebuilding it the right way, building success for individuals who made poor choices. The ironic thing is in 2008, I made a very poor choice in the housing market when it imploded. And that is the reason I was incarcerated as a paralegal for an attorney, and so many paralegals back then. And I've decided to turn that around and use those skills to take the fraud that was committed in 2008, embrace it, and turn it around into successful housing for people who have made bad choices. Also, the ironic part is I do almost all of the title searches for the lender in which was the victim in the situation that I was in. And I also do expert title testimony on these houses. And I'd love for you all, and I don't know where you all who are listening, where you are in your journey, if you're in the housing industry, the real estate industry, if you're previously incarcerated, but I urge you to reach out and join us in our quest. It is being done. We are in the cusp now of having 2 more houses donated to us from in the philanthropy state, in this philanthropy space, to now have free and clear 2 houses without a mortgage that we can place people in, giving them even longer time, tailoring the needs for them, being able to now having, we are also a nonprofit organization, and owning 2 houses builds our portfolio to now be able to leverage the 2 houses we own to purchase more properties when they go to auction. And to me, I'm very, very passionate about this particular subject because I hear way too often, even with the Clean Slate Act. The Clean Slate Act has been passed in many states, but it has not been passed federally. So for an example, I have a federal offense. Now, with a federal offense, I will never be pardoned. I will have that the rest of my life. However, I've broken through every barrier. I got my license in real estate. My crime in 2008 was due to the real estate market. However, Connecticut has embraced me and given back. I've earned my notary license, my real estate license. I got into Yale Law School, and I don't do that because I really want to sell houses. I do it to show people who are coming home after me, we can break barriers. We can do this. They are not their record. They may have committed a felony, but they are not felons. They may have committed a crime, but they're not criminals. I don't even know that person from 2008. So I'm trying with LaResse's help to change our community's perspective on the people that we do have coming home, because every person who is incarcerated is going to return to our communities. We have 2 choices: to wrap our arms around them and lift them up, or let them fall and end up back in prison along with their children ending up in prison, because the cycle continues and continues. And until communities break the cycle, lenders break the cycle, advocates break the cycle, it will continue over and over and over again. So I don't want to take up a lot of time because I really want Christina to talk, and I've talked a while, but I please urge you to reach out, join us, donate if you can, donate your time, donate anything you can. I mean, we don't only need money, we need people, we need bodies, we need people in the industry to also see a vision of success and not failure. Because within the criminal justice system, people are set up for failure. They are set up to fall. And, you know, I do believe in prison. Prison saved my life. So I do believe in some account. The prison part of it prepares people, they make them accountable. Evolution does support groups, and we transform women. We work primarily with women through transparency and through accountability, because that's the only way they can get to the point where they are now, owning a home. So I thank you guys for listening. I would love to have a conversation with anybody when we have a little bit more time. So reach out to LaResse, reach out to me, be part of the first prison to home ownership program in the country. It is not being done in the country anywhere, and it can be. So that's really my, you know, I have a bunch of slides. I'll share my screen for one moment, just so everyone can, let's see if you can see. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so the American Land Title Association now has a Uniform Unlawful Restrictions and Land Use Act. They also have discriminatory covenants, which address illegal covenants in historic land records, meaning historically we have completely discriminated against people of color, even people of religion, and the LGBTQ community, especially as well. And we don't consider someone with a criminal background being discriminated against, but they are. They completely are. And I work with ALTA right now. We're trying to change that to include incarcerated individuals. I'm also the president of the Connecticut Land Title Association, which we also are working with federal and state legislators to change the stigma. And many, many title companies throughout the country. If anybody wants to take a look, this is Evolution Reentry's website, www.evolutionreentry.org. Please feel free to pop around, see our programs. Once Incarcerated is featured on that website. And again, any questions, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. You're awesome. I look forward to continue this new work we're doing, and it started with me and wonderful Connex Credit Union. Christina, tell us about the budgeting, tell us about home ownership. Take it away.
Well, hello, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be on this panel discussion this morning with Jackie and LaResse. I mean, phenomenal women, truly an honor. But it's kind of like, you know, the kings of comedy. How do you come after Steve Harvey and, you know, Bernie Mac, like, you know, all this wonderful information, all this good energy. So I will do my best to kind of shore up the end here. But just a little bit about me. I am the community development specialist at Connex Credit Union. So about Connex Credit Union really quickly. So credit unions are smaller, they're more intimate, they're more personable, but they're not as well known. And that is something that I am truly learning is kind of a disparity, because before working for Connex Credit Union, I was not really aware of it either. And I'll be honest with you, this is my first time actually being a part of the financial industry. My my background is actually in human services, it's in care. I'm also a creative, and I've spent a lot of my career in the care and home services, human services industry. So to be fair, I grew up doing community activism, and my parents are actually correctional officers. So I'm on the other side, right? And the unique thing, I actually shared this story with a friend yesterday, that my father, who went from being a Marine to a corrections officer for over 30 years. And, there's this negative connotation with certain law enforcement officers, and especially corrections. I'm trying to figure out growing up why we could never go anywhere without him being stopped constantly. I didn't know who these people were, random people, guys walking up, oh, Mr. Outlaw, this, and he's talking to him, and he'll take time. I'm trying to get candy, I'm trying to get cereal, I'm trying to get bread, like that. Can we get home? Like, what are we doing? And every aisle we would get stopped. It would take us an hour to get out the grocery store. Learning who those people were later on, they were people who had been incarcerated. My father worked at the New Haven County Jail on Whaley Avenue, which is one of the busiest, one of the, most notorious, jails in the area. And he believed in treating people with respect, no matter where they were in their life, no matter where they ended up. And because of that, people wanted to make him proud. They had no connection to him. They weren't family members, but when they got out, they were inspired. And as Jacquie, definitely mentioned, it takes people just to believe that you can. And that is the biggest piece of this, being around an environment and energy and people that just believe that you can, gives you the opportunity to hope that you can. And then it gives you the faith that you can. And then it allows you to do the action that you can. And that is really what is so amazing about this partnership that we've got going on. And as a community development specialist, I actually don't work in any branch. I don't work in any branch at all. I don't handle your money. Please, you're safe. I don't have to run with anybody's money. But what I do is I share information about our financial products. I share information about financial literacy. That is my biggest go-to. That is my baby. I am the financial literacy spokesperson, and it's all about knowledge and resources. And you have advocacy, represented by LaResse and Jacquie, and real estate. But I represent the financial aspect of this conversation, right? The thought process about financial institutions is mixed. People's like, oh, the bank's not going to give me a loan, or the bank is not going to. And people really have this stigma actually with the very thing that actually is to serve you. And here's the thing I always say in all of the presentations or workshops that I lead before, I says, if you don't get anything from me, the one thing I want you to understand before we get out of this workshop, this webinar, whatever, this talk, is that your money's your money. It's nobody else's money. It doesn't matter if it's $10, $100, $1,000, $100,000. Doesn't matter if you've got $5 in your pocket. That's your money. And who's to say they can take your money without you giving it to them? And it's about taking back your power. It's about taking back ownership of what's yours. And that is really taking ownership of your life in a real way. And meeting people, I see Mary on the call, that's my girl from Goodwill, Good Path. The work that LaResse and Jacquie and people like Mary do is so amazing, because they're putting people in this position to really say, I want to take control. I want to take my power back, right? Because after however much time, I had to be taken care of. I had to be told what to do. And now I'm in this space where I've got to decide. Connex is a partner in those decisions. And that is really where we stand on the conversation. We believe in people. We have so many things happening. The beautiful thing about being a part of this community development department, which maybe some of you don't know, is actually new to Connex. We're only 2 years old, right? And we have our own financial products, which is beautiful. And my partner in crime, Jeanette Lucky, who is not on the call, but is our loan officer, our loan rep, she is the champion of our community development loan program. And it is specifically put together for those rebuilding. It is not intended to be for somebody who can get a traditional loan. If you can get a traditional loan, go do your thing. Do your thing, make it happen. It's beautiful, right? But if you're rebuilding, where are those resources? Where are you going to go to actually get yourself back on your footing, back into a space where you can be successful? And it feels like sometimes the walls are closing in when you're restarting, because you don't know where to go. So the two things that I'm definitely advocating for are resources and knowledge. Once you know better, you can do better, right? And once you do better, the sky's the limit, because then you have eliminated all of the ceilings above you and you've said, yes, I can do this. So that's really where I stand. And that's what I like to reiterate in my presentations, not just budgeting, not just, hey, you can buy a house. You can't buy a house unless you can think you can buy a house. You can't budget and have wealth unless you think you can. And if you don't actually embrace that, then there's no point of us talking about a program. There's no point of us talking about putting stuff in savings, because as soon as you put the money in savings, you're going to take it out and do those purchases that you know you're not supposed to do on Amazon and Prime Day and all that good stuff. You know what I mean? I got no issue with Prime Day. I was there. I showed up. But the point is that those are the kinds of things that are going to keep you from really staying focused, right? I'm going to share my screen for just a moment, just to share a bit of some of my financial literacy basics. So the base of some of this is just knowing what is really happening, right? Knowing how to take your money and use it to your advantage. And that is really where the core of being successful is. Knowing the difference between banks and credit unions. And another thing that I share with those who attend my workshops is shop for banks and credit unions like you shop for your car. For the women on the call, not to be too crude or anything, but like, this shirt looks better than this shirt, or you shop how you shop for your clothes. Shop, this feels better than that. And you don't have to go to Bank of America because they're the largest bank in America. Like, that's not necessary. They're not the only game in town. And trust me, they're not the greatest game, right? And that's not no shade to anybody who's banks with Bank of America. I'm just saying, if you look at the interest rates, there's a difference, right? The interest rates tell you something, and it's okay for you to be smart, a smart banker. It's okay for you to be smart about where you store your money, right? And who's going to give you your dividends. The other biggest piece of my workshop is your wealth pyramid, right? And that orange triangle in the corner, debt management, sounds like this negative thing. Well, owning a house is debt. That you owe somebody something, right? You hang around with Jacquie and LaResse, you might get a free house. That's different. But but if you're buying a house with, through a loan program, that's debt. But guess what? That's good debt. That's debt that looks good. That's debt that you can leverage. That's debt that can put you in a position to be financially wealthy, not just financially stable, And there's people out here who have several homes. They're not Mandy Management. They're not any of these they're just a regular person looking out for their generational wealth, looking out for their children, looking out for their spouse. And they have 3 or 4 properties, multi-family properties. They're giving other people an opportunity to live in a place that's safe and clean and respectable, that they can have dignity about while they're building their wealth. There's nothing wrong with that, right? The other big piece, now granted, this is like a very shortened version. I'm just kind of skimming over some of our highlights here. All about credit. This is the thing that scares everyone. I'm not even gonna lie, I was one of those people, right? Then I learned the nonsense that really goes down over here in the credit world, okay? The make-believe numbers, the fact that somebody else can dictate what my financial reputation looks like based off of some of my choices that I made. They gave me credit cards in college. I didn't know what I was doing. I just thought I was hot because I had plastic and I was swiping all over the place. And next thing you know, I owe $200. I owe $300. And where were the tools that I needed to understand how to actually leverage those first moments to benefit me now at the age that I am now? I didn't have them then, but I have them now. So I might be in a place of, and this is, just a general statement, you might be in a place of rebuilding, but rebuilding doesn't mean you're out. It doesn't mean that things are not going to happen for you. It just means you got to start over. And guess what? You can start over better because you know better. And all about credit is such a big conversation. And I've also found that those who are formerly incarcerated suffer from fraud more than most people. They get out and find out that things have been taken out in their name by family members, by whomever, because they were locked up and they come back to all of these debts. And they're like, what happened? I wasn't even available to make this account make sense. And so you can take back that power. You can dispute, and not through that little button on Credit Karma. Don't you dare, okay? You write the letter, do the work, write the letter, send the letter, okay? Don't press the button on Credit Karma. Don't do it, all right? I want you to really dig in because there's laws that protect you as a consumer. And that is what people are missing. And the credit, not agencies, because they're not government at all. They're credit companies that report. They're not credit agencies. And so that's another piece that I really focus on, educating people and letting them know. And by the time we're done having this conversation, people are like, oh, shoot. Well, where can I check my credit score? And by the way, don't pay to check your credit score because you can do that for free as well, right? So we also talk about what matters in credit, what matters in those decision that makes it for somebody, an underwriter, to make those decisions, right? Why does it matter? Because credit cards, auto loans, mortgages, insurance, other forms of credit, that is what you're looking to build your financial reputation with. And these are the factors that go into those credit decisions. You're identifying account and information, payment history, huge, huge, huge portion of it, amounts owed, length of credit history, types of credit, and public records and collection items. What is excluded? Criminal background, medical information. These things are excluded. So if they're excluded, that means that you don't have to be worried about it for real. You can go out there and really go ahead and rebuild your life, however it is you need to rebuild it. And nobody gets to tell you what that looks like because it's not incorporated in that decision making. This is kind of a makeup of how those particular pieces, move into your credit score and how does that really look, right? Payment history, amounts owed, length of credit history, types of credit, and new credit. And then success with credit. So we talk about how to establish credit, especially if you're rebuilding. Secured credit cards is you borrowing your own money. It's okay. It could be $100. Doesn't matter. Use that $100 and buy gum every month and pay off your gum bill, okay? There's nothing wrong with fresh breath and great credit. So you can do that with a secured credit card, right? Protecting your credit, you can do that as well. So there's all these different ways that you can make this happen. I also want to just pinpoint, this is just a little thing that really kills me. People think credit freeze is something that the credit companies do. No, this is something you do. You put a credit freeze on your credit. You don't want anybody to see your information while you gather yourself. When you first come out, put a credit freeze on everything. Freeze it up and look at what's going on so that you can determine what your next step is. And you can keep that freeze on your credit reports for as long as you like. Seek out help. Visit people like LaResse and Jacquie, you know, or even Danielle and her organization. Get the information that you need to know about your next steps before you actually do anything. And it's okay to take a beat once you get out. You don't got to hit the ground running. You can take a beat. You can say, hey, I need to figure out what my next step is. And it's okay to put a pause on it. And that's what a credit freeze is. And I strongly encourage people to do that, to slow down the process of what's happening to you financially. Of course, I share the resources, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. They're the big three, not the only three. And then annualcreditreport.com. That is where you get your free credit reports from all the big three. Once a week, they will refresh and you can populate that every single week for free. Don't you dare, if I hear word that you paid for a credit report, you're going to see from me, because it's not necessary for you to do. Don't pay Experian $40. What you doing that for? Don't do that. Use that $40 and pay it on that credit card you owe and get your credit reports for free. Also, we have advocates at every Connex branch, and our advocates are not just anybody. They're the actual branch managers. Our branch managers are our advocates. So when you walk through the door and says, I would like to speak to an advocate, you're talking to the person that runs the branch. They have every understanding and they know every piece and facet of all of our financial products, and they will help you understand what is best for you that we can offer you. Not only that, they'll help you create a plan to really conquer those goals that you have. And that is something that is really awesome about Connex, right? That we are so dedicated that we're going to take a step to support you in any facet that you need. We have credit rebuilding, financial products, all of that. The last thing I want to share is our homeowner program, because that's what we're here for, right? So want to make sure that everybody sees that. Give me 1 second. And why it's different. So I'm gonna share that with everyone.
Christina, make sure you put your information in the chat because it is now 11 o'clock.
Gotcha. All right, so I'm gonna share this last piece here. So we're talking about home ownership, and we're talking about the possibilities of it and why it makes sense and why it's possible. So Jacquie and LaResse are out here to support you when you come out, when you're trying to get back on your feet. But when you're ready, Connex is here to help you figure out how to buy that house if you need to, right? What's beautiful about this is that it can include 1 to 4 family, owner-occupied homes. The other thing is that we have, it's a program that has several different pieces. First-time homeowner mortgage loan program, and it shares the loan amounts and 30 years. First-time home buyer down payment assistance with home equity loan program, which is definitely something a little different. This is the one that I really like, the first-time home buyer home equity loan rehabilitation program, where you can take a portion of the loan and use that for the rehab. The other piece that I like about this is that if you have done the work and you've gotten yourself up to a 620, you can opt to have your closing costs folded into the loan. That's something that a traditional loan would allow you to do, right? And then even if you're below that and you have a 580, because 580 is our minimum, we're only asking for 3% down. So we're not into this place where you're going to be house rich and cash poor. And you'll hear, if you do connect with Jeanette Lucky, if you think that you're ready or need some feedback on whether or not you might be needing the next steps, understand that that's her phrase. She just told me yesterday, she says in her 30 years, this is my, the loan officer that I work with. She says in 30 years, not one of my clients has ever had a foreclosure. Every single one of her clients still owns their homes or has sold it. And so she is not in a habit of telling you what you want to hear. Now she's hard body now. She's going to let you know what it is, right? She's going to tell you what it is, but she's going to guide you. She's going to share with you the steps to get ready. And that's what we do. That's what we're different. We're more invested in your success because your success is our success. We just hold the money for you. It's your money, right? And if you're not successful and you become house rich and cash poor, you default on the loan, we lose money. So it is in our best interest for you to be successful, but even more so, it's in our best interest to see our community successful and to see people really thrive, no matter where they are in their lives. So that is where I come into it. I will drop my information in the chat. If there is anything that anybody would like to follow up with me or want to ask or put into anything else, the answer to your question, Jackie, is no, we don't do government. We do by HUD guidelines. So the Community Development Loan Program is specifically our financial product. It's something that we developed. It was passed by our board. Our board believes in this. So this is not government supported. This is not government run. This is legitimately Connex Credit Union saying, we want to invest in our community and this is what we're doing. So yes, it's not. And then I see something by else. Yes. So LaResse over here, she about to be my manager. Let me go ahead and plug in the chat. So yes, you can ask me to come by and you do not have to pay for me to show up. Okay. You do not have to, somebody asked me that, well, how much do you charge to run a workshop? I charge nothing because I get paid already to show up. Right. So Connex pays me to do this work. So you can ask me to do a financial presentation with your organization, with your staff, for your company, whomever, it doesn't matter. I will show up, date and time, you make it happen, I will show up. So I do financial literacy workshops any day of the week. That's kind of my thing. And then Jeanette Lucky also does first-time home buying workshops. She's phenomenal. She breaks everything down and she breaks down the real estate language, all of that great stuff, especially for people who are looking to move in that direction. So I will drop my information in the chat. And if you would like to get back in touch with me, please do let me know.
Thank you so much to our presenters. We are over the hour, so thank you for folks who stayed with us. I'll leave the chat and space open just so folks can grab contact information. It looks like there's a lot of opportunity to connect beyond today's conversation, which is really exciting. Thank you again all so much. It's so important, and just all the work that you do, so appreciative of. Thank you for taking the time with us. And I did drop in the chat earlier, it may be a little lost now, but September 4th is our next conversation. We'll be talking about the intersection of affordable housing and social health. So if you're interested in that conversation, September 4th, 10 to 11 a.m., be there, or I guess be square. But otherwise, we will see you all in future spaces together. Thank you for being here with us this morning.
Thank you for having us.